let's see how things are today. Ba 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 ba. Oh, yawning. Yawning is always the best way to start out a live stream. Okay. Huh. That seems okay. Oh, that's what's missing. My ability to hear myself. Okay. There we go. I'm gonna turn my fan off. Ugh. Nice. Nice. Okay. So I've kind of changed my setup a little bit, which is why this might be a bit weird, but that's okay. Pow! Bam! Right in the room. You guys can hear my very loud neighborhood. Actually, I forgot. I'll close the window. That will help. Derp. I'm gonna wait just a couple of minutes, as per the usual, just to give people an opportunity to get into the room. I'm gonna be real. I just ate like an enormous hot dog really fast. So I don't feel super great, but we're gonna try this. We're gonna try to get through it. And if you can hear me okay, that's good. Great decisions all around, I know. So yeah, if you can let me know if you hear me okay, if anything sounds weird. I cannot guarantee that my roommate is not going to show up at some point and just start making lots of noise, so we will find out how that goes. But I'm just being real, my brain feels a little sluggish right now. She may actually shake maracas in my fucking unthinkable face. And then I would go berserk. Absolutely berserk. Go get a drink. And I will hang out here for a little bit and I'll wait. See what's happening. Yeah. Woman goes berserk live on stream. Yeah. I would go from being this very cool, very collected, very calm person to losing my goddamn mind. So, 0 to 100. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I normally, before I start a live stream, I warm up my voice, and I have not done that. So I sound very deep. And I actually sound like how I normally sound before I'm ready to go to bed. Very sensual. Lovely. Yeah. My warm up is usually pretty embarrassing, but I can do it for you guys. I can do my warm up. And then that way we're good to go. I follow like a YouTube video when I do my warm up. Let me see where it is. Excuse me. I'm really bad at using technology ever. Where is this thing? Show more. Vocal warm-ups. Okay. This guy's great. Gary Terza? Anyways. He has this thing. Ooh, not that one. And I'm gonna actually just mute him because basically all I do is I follow this thing he puts down. And this is gonna sound a bit weird. Hey, Sam. Yeah, I'm just doing it's not really like a vocal warm-up. It's more a reading, getting your mouth ready to read warm-up. And I usually do it before, but I was just telling Aaron that I ate an enormous hot dog and I feel kind of ill. So I didn't actually, I was like, ugh, not really doing my thing. So, abita, ebita, ibita, obita, ubita. Akata, ekata, ikata, okata, ukata. Adita, edita, idita, audita, udita. Affita, effita, ifita, offita, ufita. Agata, egata, igata, augata, ugata. The H's always mess me up. I've got to hear him do it because I always forget how it's supposed to sound. Your favorite Fraggle Rock sound? Good. Ahata, ehata, ihata, ahata, uhata. I suck at that one. Agita, edgita, igita, agita, ujita. And L's I kind of mess up as well. It just helps me to like get my mouth ready. Alita, elita, illita, olita, ulita. Amita, emita, imita, amita, umita. Anata, enata, inata, onata, unata. Apita, epita, ipita, opita, upita. Bippity boppity boo. Yeah. And yeah, I just try to get my mouth into it and like actually do it. And I think like it kind of just helps me a little bit. I don't know. It's very silly. I like it though. It sounds almost because the guy doing it has like an accent. And so when I do it, I think I sound like I have an accent. It's very strange. Erita, irrita. Nope. Arita, erita, irrita, orita, urita. Asita, esita, isita, osita, usita. Atita, etita, itita, otita, utita. Awita, ewita, iwita, awita, uwita. Axita, exita, ixita, oxita, uxita. And then ezita, azita, ezita, isita, ozita, uzita. So usually I run through that. And then sometimes I do a breathing exercise. But I think if I just take in a lot of air. I'm holding it. Okay. those big stretches. I'm also sitting in a place I don't normally sit. So that's another thing. But that's okay. Okay. Whew. You guys got to hear my... I'm just moving my arms around. Ugh. Shake it out. Shake it out. Oh, oh. Okay. So, not a lot of, like, there are some people that said they were going to be here, and they're not here. That's fine. I'm just wondering if I should give it a bit more time, or if I should just start. 16 ties. Why would you roll up 16 ties? Oh, to put them away? When do you ever wear a tie? Oh, okay. Well, that's nice of her. So I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna be real with you guys. I have not read through this as a practice, but I looked through it. I browsed through it, and there's a lot of breaks. So I think that's gonna work out fairly well for us. Oh yeah, tie material is super slippery, and I find ties really difficult to store as well. I have a couple ties as well. I was like, why do you have ties? Like, you don't wear ties. I don't. I wear a tie very, 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 very rarely. So I'm not one to talk. I have ties as well. I'm going to have more. What? Why would I have more ties? I'm very confused. I'm very lost. Yikes. That's even scarier. It's not a threat, it's a promise. Okay. All right, good to know. Cool. Cool, 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 cool. Well, I mean, obviously I have to have more bow ties because of my boyfriend. Michael requires more ties, and he loves it when I get him new ties, so... I'm dead. I'm dead inside. It's okay. I'm glad that you just like went with that, Aaron. You're like, exactly. Your boyfriend wears bow ties. Your imaginary boyfriend who is only human sometimes. He's not even human. It's just human shaped sometimes. Needs his bow ties, of course. Perfect sense. I'm assuming that you wear that, Aaron, so that your boyfriend can always borrow some clothes off of you if he needs to. In case Captain Disillusion ever shows up, in case CD ever shows up, and you're like, don't worry, I've got you, fam. And he's like, wow, this like person that I've never met before, she was just like ready, and she knew what I needed, and she's so amazing and she's great. And actually all of those things would be true because you are amazing and you're great. And if Captain Disillusion couldn't see that, I would punch him in the face. Straight up. No problem. But he would instantly fall in love with you, is what I'm saying. And then you would help him make debunking videos. Aaron, to be fair, I said a lot of that stuff in jest. I do not know Aaron's true feelings about Captain Disillusion. And you're right, Aaron, there is no love in skepticism. Yes, of course. Anyways, I wasn't trying to embarrass anybody, is what I was trying to say. I wasn't trying to embarrass anyone, so. Okay. What do I want to do? Do I want to wait? Do I want to go? Do I want to wait? Should I stay or should I go now? There you go, Sam. Walked into that one. That's what you get. That's what you get. Speaking of, like, crushes, because I usually only crush on, like, one. Okay, I'll be honest. Right now, Michael's my guy. I think Michael's going to be my guy for a while. But I've been getting more into gargoyles, and I have to say, Elisa and Goliath, oh my god. I love it. I love it. I'm not crushing on him, but I love the idea of them crushing on each other. Not the idea of him crushing her. That's not great. But yeah. But I have a type. Okay? I have a ship type. And I'm... Yeah. Oh, you've never watched it. When I was a kid, I didn't watch it. It was always like that show that it's like, if it was on, I'd watch it, blah, blah, blah. I wasn't really into it. And, but so many people love it. So many people love that show. So I decided, well, I'll sit down and I'll watch it and see what the fuss is about. Yeah. And it's surprisingly... Sometimes I feel like it's too complex. Like, not that I'm like, oh, I can't follow this, but more just like, sometimes it's fun to just have like one-off episodes. And it's fun to not have to remember the history of everything that's going on. Which I'm really surprised they did for a kid's show in the 90s. But like, I think the thing that I got a little bit frustrated with is that I like the original premise of the show. I just find that as it goes and they add more and they add more and they add more, I get a little bit like, I don't care about this group of mutants. I don't give a shit about Oberon's children. I don't really give a shit about a lot of this stuff. I really just like the central conceit of like, we're gargoyles in New York City, and the dude who brought us to life is kind of an asshole and a bad guy, and we've decided to team up with this cop and try to protect the city and do the right thing. And I like that. I like that kind of central conceit. But yeah, the rest of it I'm kind of like, I don't care at all. I also like fish out of water stories. Like, I know that it's really cheap but I really like fish out of water stories. So give me a gargoyle who doesn't fucking know what the fuck's going on half the time. They're like, wow, look at this like moving tapestry, and they're like, it's a computer screen. I like that shit. I don't know. I'm garbage like that. Yeah, I don't know. Like some people have said that's a bad trope, but I quite like it. Yeah, Blair's great. When he's like, and I like that Blair sometimes does know, but he pretends not to know just to see people's reaction. Because he can get away with it. I just pictured Blair being like, yes, it's because I'm a bad bitch. Like, you knew what that meant. He's like, yes, because I'm a bad bitch. Fuck. Too good. Yeah, I am 100% that bitch. Too good. So I'm gonna give it another like 9 minutes. I'm gonna wait till 1:30. I don't wait this long, but I know that Auk wanted to come, and I know, uh, I don't. Well, I just know Auk wants to be here. Um, so he said he gets home anywhere between like 1 and 2. So I figure if I wait till 1:30 ish, he might show up. Just because I don't think he knows really anything about the Return of Imagination or the CD stuff, or like I don't think he's a part of this. So if he came in the middle of the story, it might be a bit confusing for him. But I'm sure he's a smart cookie. He can probably figure stuff out. He can put 2 and 2 together. So, ooh, wine and yogurt raisins. I wanted wine so bad. I wanted wine so bad. I really considered getting it. And I was like, I can't because I'm reading. And I can't have alcohol, obviously. Um, for some obvious reasons and some not obvious reasons. Oh, mini donuts are so good. Oh, they're so good. I get sick eating mini donuts though, because I can't. I have no impulse control, and I'll eat like a whole bag of them, and I'll be like, ugh. Mini donuts are like they're powdered. At least the ones I'm thinking of, they're like basically somebody takes a little bit of batter and they throw it in a thing. They like fry it. So you get them like fresh, like really hot. Um, and yeah, they're fried dough with brown sugar. And like, um, yeah, they're really hot. They're really sweet. They're like, I don't know. They're really good. Oh, they're so good. Although they always sell them at like fairs and stuff. And yeah, probably like a pure donut. It's probably the same thing. And you get like a little a little sack of them, little paper. What would you call that? Paper sack. Anyways, and yeah, but you always get them like at fairs and stuff, which isn't necessarily bad, but it's like especially on like a hot day or things like that. I'm like, oh my god, thank you. The word is a paper bag. A paper sack. Fuck. How do I words? It's gonna get worse, guys. I have to warn you. This is only going to get worse because I'm moving to Montreal. And my accent is going to change because I'm like that. Um like because I have like a really my ear picks up on accents. I think a lot of people have this, but my ear picks up on accents and then I end up talking in the accent when I don't mean to. So I know that when I'm living in Montreal, my accent is going to change a little bit, because it did the last time I lived there. And I'm going to fucking forget words. And that's just going to happen. Yeah. Sam, you probably have that then. Your voice changes when you're around Aaron. In what way does it change, though? Do you find that it's more like more musical, like more lilting? I know that it's like, yeah, I have the same thing. Aaron, I have the same thing. I'm like, I hope people don't think I'm just like fucking with them. Yeah, that's normal. I think that happens for everybody. Um, most people's accents change, I think. Uh, I know that um, when I moved back from Montreal, everybody knew that I was from Montreal, or at least from Quebec. Everybody was like, "Oh, you have like an accent. You have like a Quebec accent." Um, like a French person accent, and that's fine. I actually quite like it. I think it's charming. It's more interesting than my usual, which I actually don't sound like a lot of people from BC, which is very strange because I grew up around I grew up around all these people, but uh, I don't have a very strong accent. Most people, like to be fair, most people in BC, in southern BC, don't, but um, yeah, I don't think I have a very strong accent. Yeah, I get you, Aaron. Like, you don't want people up north um, to think that you're just being one of those London London jerks. Here it's a little bit the same. Like the south is more where there's like bigger cities and stuff like that, and the more northern you go, you end up getting more of an accent. And unfortunately, it's often used to make fun of people, especially native people, here to like take the piss with like that kind of like northern BC accent. So yeah. Um, yeah. I don't know where I was going with that, but I get you. Okay. Two tiny wings? What? Oh, that's so sweet. I'm gonna go take a look at this. Because I'm very interested. Ah. Yeah, I recognize, excuse me, I recognized the name. I recognized the name because I've seen stuff from them before, but I couldn't think of who they were. Oh, well, maybe some people will stop by. Yeah, two tiny wings. Aww. Yay. All right, I think we've waited long enough for Occam. I think we have waited long enough. So let's get this going. Keep in mind, like I said, I haven't really read through this as much as I've read through some of the other stuff. So I might be a bit, um, oh no. um, you guys are super, super nice, by the way. Like, very lovely. Thank you. I'm very concerned by all the screaming in the chat, but I will try this. So, for posterity's sake, for the sake of doing this right, I'm going to read out the summary. And yeah, so this is, you both know, this is a 3-chapter fic that is completed by Andersam and Wafflestories. Yay! And the summary is: Dean Finder is just another employee at the Imagination Institute. Uninteresting, unimaginative, and absolutely normal in every way. At the start of an ordinary day, a new enemy of imagination in the modern age rears its head. The Dreamfinder has been missing for years, leaving it up to Dean, Figment, IT intern Alan, and cast member Ellie to find a way to prevent the entire Epcot park from spiraling into conspiracy, chaos, and lies. Co-written with Tumblr user Waffle Bloggies. I always say Waffle Guppies. You want to know something, Aaron? You want to know something? When you go, oh, that's us she's talking about. Every time I start a stream, I always want to be like, and we're back, right? Okay, so let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. The better version of that song. Okay. All right, so here we go. This is chapter 1. Dean Finder slid himself out of bed and nearly onto the floor. A tired hand fumbled about, nearly knocking over a glass on the nightstand before it found the snooze button. The hand then located a rounded pair of old spectacles and latched onto them, reeling them in like a lazy fishing line. Now that he could see, Dean stumbled into the bathroom, nearly tripping over a pile of clothes. He held his fingers under the tap, waiting patiently for the rusty pipes on his building to wake up and deliver warm water. His gaze caught the mirror as he waited. A beard was yet again trying to grow from his stubby chin, tinged an amber orange. Dean frowned as he glanced at the blinking clock on the toilet, calculating the difference in time and coming to the conclusion he had no time to shave. The rest of the morning was a whirlwind of brushed teeth, acceptable clothes, and a breakfast consisting of 2 pieces of toast, chewed on as he made a peanut butter sandwich with one hand and fumbled for the TV remote with the other. The picture on the old junker of a TV... I don't know why I'm stumbling so much. I apologize. The picture on the old junker of a TV had barely begun to die as Dean slipped out the apartment door. Down the stairs and out to the street below, the morning damp already starting to evaporate in the Florida sun. Dean picked up his feet as he made it to the street corner, just as his bus did. He hopped on, swiping his card and collapsing into a seat as the bus started to move. Cutting it a little close today. Oh, I said it wrong. I'm sorry. Cutting it a little close today? Asked the man sitting next to him, laughing as he pulled out an earbud. He looked just a year or so younger than Dean, with short, curly, dark brown hair and a black and gray striped shirt. I don't know. Oh, sorry. I'm just going to... Quick thing. I don't actually know what Dreamfinder sounds like. So I'm going to do my best here, but I don't actually know what he sounds like. Thanks for saving me a seat, Alan. Anytime, Dee. Us commuters gotta stick together. Oh, looks like you remembered your lunch today. Tired of the Institute cafeteria food, Dean explained shortly. I hear that, Alan replied as he held his phone back up. Dean leaned over, trying to get a look. Another visual effects tutorial? Oh, yeah. Seen this one a dozen times before. The guy narrating this one is missing out on several key facets of the illusion. Dean let him talk. Once Alan got started, it was hard to stop him. The bus lumbered from stoplight to stoplight, brakes hissing like a grumpy snake as it stopped and started, vying with the early morning traffic. The herky-jerky movement made Alan's exposition sound a bit like he had hiccups. He wound down soon enough on his own, smiling a short, self-conscious smile at the mom with a pushchair across the aisle who was close enough to potentially, maybe almost, be in earshot. "Are you okay?" he asked Dean. "You're kind of quiet this morning." "Quieter," he corrected himself, "than usual." "I'm fine," he sighed after a long moment of seeming to think rather hard about something. Saying nothing else after that, Alan had figured he was done, and his earbud had barely been replaced when Dean spoke again. "You ever get the feeling that you had a dream the night before, but you can't remember what happened in it?" Alan shrugged. Yeah, all the time. It's something to do with your sleep patterns, I think, or what point you wake up." "Wait, didn't you say you don't dream?" "That's just it." Dean lifted up his baseball cap, combing his orange hair under it before setting it back down. He hadn't even had time to brush it this morning. "I don't dream. Never had one that I could remember. But it feels like I did last night." A sigh passed his lips, in time with the hissing of the bus brakes as it reached another stoplight. "I'm probably thinking too much about it." Younger, more British, less Santa Clausy. Okay. I don't know if I can do a British accent. On demand. I will try. "Everybody dreams, dude," said Alan, watching Dean trying to force his hair back under his cap with a touch of amusement. "I mean, unless you're secretly an alien or something, you probably just forgot." He circled a vague finger at the area of Dean's ear. You've got sort of a tuft." "Thanks." Oh man, that felt bad. He fumbled, tucking it under as the bus started to move again. "How are things where do you work in the Institute again?" he asked, embarrassed. "Things in systems support are just fantastic," said Alan, in the tone of voice he tended to use when he meant things were not very fantastic at all. He was staring out of the window. Open lakes and marshy tree-tangled culverts rolled past under the rising sun. "Sometimes I'd rather work for the alligators. There's a chance of being eaten, but at least they don't think they know how to use computers." "I don't know. Give 1,000 alligators 1,000 typewriters and they might come up with something," Dean said with a smile as the bus passed through a gate and deep into the theme park property. And there's a scene break, paragraph break. I tried, I was like, "Thanks." And I was like, "Oh, that's terrible." I don't want to offend anybody if I do like a really weird accent. Give 1,000 alligators 1,000 typewriters and they might come up with something. I don't know. I just feel bad. I was like really excited to do this one, and today I feel a little bit off, but we're picking up our momentum. Okay. The Imagination Institute was certainly an unusual workplace. It looked as if someone had taken two perfectly normal glass office towers and stuck them haphazardly in the earth like a 3-year-old stuck candles into a cake, diagonally. The result was a pair of glass pyramids hugged by buildings containing labs. In the 90s, the Academia Scientifica Lucidis had hit hard times and was threatening to close. Disney had stepped in and cut a deal. A second campus was created, separated from the original academy, and relocated to be part of a joint venture with their amusement park. The result was the Imagination Institute, an open tour that tried to get some science accomplished in the meantime. Neither of the boys bothered to look up as the bus rolled to a stop at the employee entrance. "You might want to wait for the next stop, ma'am," Dean kindly told a couple who had started to gather their things, maps, cameras, backpacks, clearly tourists. The morning was warmer now as they stepped into the sunshine, Dean checking to make sure Alan was behind him before they headed for the doors. The bag check on the doors was mandatory these days. There wasn't much of a line for the staff entrance, and the security guard barely poked at Dean's bag before waving him through. He'd never been pulled aside or chosen for a search in all the time he'd worked in the place, although it was supposed to be random. Evidently, security just didn't consider him very interesting. He left Alan at the stairs where the way to their respective departments split. As a junior member of the building's IT support team, Alan seemed to spend most of his days being paged to different parts of the building, but whenever nobody was having a technical crisis, he tended to keep a low profile in system support ground floor hub. Maybe that was part of the reason why the two of them had become friends. Both certainly had a knack for keeping a low profile. After dropping his lunch off at the break room, Dean grabbed one of the show lab coats off the hook, tugging it on and pinning his badge to the front. D. Finder, it read, and the picture was just as unassuming as he was. The expression of how lucky he was to have landed the lab assistant job still on his face. Dean didn't remember much of college. All the nights of solitary studying and the occasional awkward social events had all blended into a gray lump of memory. His grades had been average, but the institute had gladly taken him on mere days after he applied. While it had only been a few months ago, the memory was already starting to feel like a yellowing photograph in his mind. He'd been remembering all this as he walked absent-mindedly out the door and straight into someone else. "Oh, goodness! Dr. Channing! Sir, I'm so sorry!" His hand came out to steady his boss, Dr. Channing. His hand came out to steady his boss. Dr. Channing was the head of the institute, even if the man did seem to wear the title very reluctantly. At the present moment, however, he seemed to be occupied with yet another of the million things on his shoulders. "Ah, yes. Good morning, Devon." "Dean, sir," he patiently corrected. Channing seemed instead to be looking at the vent mounted close to the ceiling, as if keeping an eye out for something. "Is everything all right?" "Slight pest control problem," said Channing, without taking his eyes off the vent. "Nothing for you to worry about." "You." Something about the way he said the word was mildly derogatory, an offhand reminder that he, Dr. Channing, was indeed worrying about whatever it was because it was something important enough that it was his job to worry about it, of all people, and therefore the whole situation was far, far over the head of some peon in a lab coat. Dean could feel his brow raise skeptically before he could stop it. He turned, following the doctor's gaze. The vent stayed as it probably had every day since it was installed, silent and pumping out vital air conditioning. Lizards again? "You could say that." Channing trailed off before he seemed to remember Dean was there. The vent was certainly an ongoing focus of attention. Before too long, a couple of security guards had joined Channing in looking up at it, although in their case it was with a slight sense of bafflement and side glances at each other, neither being entirely sure what they had been summoned for. After a little while, the group was joined by a middle-ranking scientist or two. One of them had brought a broom, but it was a deal too short to reach the vent. By the time Dean left, unnoticed by anybody and smiling quietly to himself, there was intense discussion about the nearest possible place to loan a large stepladder. And there's a break, so I'm going to grab some water. Monthly stare at the vents day. I like the idea that Dr. Channing would just do this every month to like some intern. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't, like, he just like goes into a room and he just like looks at something and he waits to see what this person does. It's like the monthly fuck with somebody. Why am I not surprised that Darren Brown would do that? Let me just grab some more water. I realized I'm out. Give me 1 sec. Oh my god. I'm not surprised. Because Darren Brown's whole thing is like he says he's a magician, but it's more like it's psychology. Like he's all about psychology, right? An illusionist, that's right. Dean wore the smile through most of the morning, the grin threatening to renew as rumors of a disturbance in the air conditioning system rippled through the building later that morning. Filing papers and categorizing lab reports made the morning go rather quick, and soon Dean found a suitable breaking spot for lunch. In one corner of the complex, surrounded by sun-baked administrative buildings and away from the prying eyes of the hundreds of Daily Institute guests, was a small green space. It was quite like Dean himself, always there but never really useful or eye-catching enough to stand out. It was practically always deserted, making it the perfect place for some peace and quiet. In the shade of a stubborn old tree, Dean set himself on his usual spot, undoing the latches on his lunchbox. Out came a can of soda, a baggie of potato chips, and lastly, the sandwich he'd hastily made that morning. Unwrapping it from the plastic baggie, he left one triangle sitting atop the lunchbox as he started to munch on the other half. He waited. Perhaps 5 minutes passed. It was a warm, breezeless day, and the branches of the tree over Dean's head were stone still. But as he quietly ate his sandwich, a funny, surreptitious sort of rustling shivered through the leaves just above him. Another moment, and then in a sudden all-in-one tumble, a small purple, confused blur of a creature fell out of the foliage on a single frantic downbeat of its tiny orange wings and dove straight under the bench at Dean's feet, grabbing the other half of his sandwich on the way. Dean flinched back at the sudden disappearance of the other half of his sandwich. His eyes followed the blur of purple as he bent, straining to look under the bench. Nothing but scraggy patches of grass greeted him. Suddenly, there was a weight on his head as something pushed on his hat, making the brim fall over his eyes. Dean laughed, stretching his arm out to keep his sandwich out of reach of whatever was assaulting him. "Nuh-uh! This one's mine!" "Shh!" whispered Figment, his large and luminous yellow eyes staring earnestly into Dean's from his upside-down perch on his hat. "Dean! You gotta hide me!" He whisked up onto the bench and pulled the loose end of Dean's lab coat up over his head. With the material draped over his horns like the poles of a small dragon-shaped tent, he started to eat his half of the sandwich. Dean couldn't stop another short chuckle. This would have to do with the rumors I've heard about the air conditioning, would it? Oh, I said that wrong. I'm so sorry. This wouldn't have to do with the rumors I've heard about the air conditioning, would it? Maybe, replied the lump between bites of peanut butter. Dean sighed. What did you do this time, Figment? It's so hot inside today, said the little dragon indistinctly through his sandwich. Everyone's so discombobulated. There's a weird feeling, isn't there? Everyone's snapping at each other. I figured it must be the heat. He swallowed. I just want everyone to feel cooler. Maintenance aren't allowed to turn the air conditioning up anymore, but I thought, I'm not maintenance, right? I'm Figment. A thoughtful peanut-buttered pause. I guess Dr. Channing doesn't see it that way. Also, I might have turned it up a little too much. Dr. Channing's always like that. But now that you mention it, Ellie seemed a little cold to me when I said hello to her this morning. Dean drew back his lab coat, revealing a small purple dragon licking peanut butter off his stubby claws. But points for trying, Figment. A noble effort. I think I have something that'll cheer you up. A present? Figment seemed to light up like a light bulb. For me? Oh, goody! Dean opened his lunchbox again, laughing, and gently nudged the dragon away as he tried to poke his hooked snout in. Easy, buddy, he said as he pulled out a brightly wrapped piece of candy. You can have one, okay? I still don't think the third-floor bathroom is working after what happened last time. Reaching eagerly for the candy, Figment stopped momentarily and winced. I sort of hoped everyone forgot about that. He turned the neon wrapper over in his claws. Thanks, Dean. You know I don't mean to mess stuff up. Somehow, he puffed out a small sigh. My ideas never work out how I mean them to anymore. Personally, I would love to have a miniature water park on the third floor, Dean said, his face falling as he saw sadness cross Figment's face. The only one we have nearby is the overpriced one for theme park guests. One hand started picking at his potato chips as the other scratched at the spot right under Figment's steer-like horns. I still don't see why Channing is so obsessed with keeping you under wraps. Yeah, I get that showing people how we store and recombine ideas is good and all, but I think the guests would love you. Really? You think so? It didn't take much to lift Figment's spirits. He perked up and leaned into Dean's hand as the helpful fingers hit that hard-to-reach sweet spot. I'd love to meet them too. Everyone in the lab is great. But all those thousands of guests coming through here every day from all over the world, and I never get to talk to any of them. He grinned, his eyes taking on the faraway, dreamy sheen that usually meant that some heavy-duty daydreaming was going on inside. Hey, Dean, imagine if you were in charge of the Institute. I bet you could get Dr. Channing to give me a chance. Dean inhaled sharply. coughing as a potato chip almost entered his windpipe. Figment nearly dropped his candy, tiny wings lifting him as he thumped Dean on the back. "Gosh, is it really that exciting to you?" he asked as Dean cleared his throat. "Me? Head of the Institute? Figment, I'm already barely noticed as it is. There's no way I could hold the attention of an entire facility." "Sure you could." Figment landed on his shoulder, any idea of staying hidden completely forgotten, the flared end of the wrapper sticking up from his small fist like a microphone. "You'd be great. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting for your avid listening pleasure, the unparalleled head of the Imagination Institute, the one, the only, Professor Dean." He stopped. "You know, you've never told me your last name." "Mr. Finder," said a very dry, very unimpressed, very British voice behind him. Figment bumped against Dean's head as his shoulders shot up to his ears, while Figment's shot up to the middle of his long neck. He moved quickly, engulfing Figment in the baseball cap, wild orange hair flaring as the dragon made a small noise that sounded like a cross between an oof noise and an echo of "Finder?" "Dr. Channing, what a surprise to see you here." "I could say the same of you, Dean. And Figment. I know you're under there, you little troublemaker." "We were just having lunch," halted Figment, scooching out from under Dean's cap. Channing focused on the bright candy wrapper in his hand. "So I see," he said coldly. "Dean, I seem to remember a specific memo about feeding our little friend here sweets, shortly following the incident regarding the third-floor bathroom. Do you need me to jog your memory?" Dean hid the roll of his eyes by putting his cap back on. "No, sir. But it's just one, and it's not like there's anywhere else in the Institute where you can get them." Figment seemed to straighten up a little, even as Dean shrank back with every word. "Well, that's rather the point, isn't it?" said Channing. His voice dropped, becoming quiet and heavily condescending, something which most of his staff had learned to take as a giant glowing danger sign. "It's just one, because everyone else is doing as I asked." Dean shrank back so much further he nearly had to grab onto the back of the bench to keep from falling over. "Oh, come on, Doc," Figment piped up, those tiny orange wings beating and lifting him up from Dean's shoulders. "If you want, we can share it." "Figment." Channing was clearly clinging to the last shreds of his patience. Channing was clearly clinging to the last shreds of his patience. "I have told you an astronomical amount of times to stay in the lab where you belong. You're supposed to be the iconic symbol of this institute. Lord help us. And this institute is a place of science and learning, not practical jokes and consorting with clerical workers. You are supposed to represent something of worth. Please," he said between his teeth, "act like it." But Blair always said—" "Blair isn't here, Figment." The sentence shot out of the director with the force of a slap, and for a second even Channing looked shocked to the core that he'd said it. He breathed a long, measured breath and pinched his nose like a man in the grip of a sudden headache, but when he continued, his voice was calm and cold and perfectly clear. "He's gone. He's not coming back. And sometimes I wish to God he'd taken you with him." Dean felt his chest suddenly become tight. The weight on his shoulder increased as Figment slumped heavily. Those yellow eyes were wide, welling with thick tears as the dragon's small lower lip quivered a little. "Figment, Dean felt the weight leave his shoulders as what felt like a small burst of air hit his ear. Figment was gone. Dean, able to catch a quick sight of what looked like a small glowing ball of pink light, disappeared down the path back towards the Institute. Dean stumbled to his feet, eyes darting to his boss. Did you really have to be that harsh? Look, Dean. Channing tucked a hand in his pocket. You may have good intentions, but Figment is already unstable enough as he is without you encouraging him. Dean opened his mouth to speak, but Channing cut him off. We'll discuss this later, in my office. Now, if you'll excuse me, I am very late to a symposium on emerging skepticism and truth in media. I'll send someone to get you when we can talk. Channing turned, hands stuffed in his pockets as he went in the opposite direction of the sparks fading trail. That left Dean alone in the shade of the noon sun with a half-empty lunchbox. Yay! I'm gonna move where I'm sitting really quick, guys. I'm gonna move where I'm sitting because I feel like I'm stuttering a lot and it's just not, I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. I just feel bad. Every time I screw up, I'm like, oh, fuck. So let's readjust. I love Figment. Like, I don't know anything about canon Figment. But I love Figment. Oh, this next part was all... Alan was all Aaron and I'm still in love with it. I should read it. Hoping I can do it justice then. Get out of here, stupid chair. Alright. Maybe this will feel a bit better. My eye is struggling to keep up with stuff. Oops. Me knocking shit over. Yay! That's 100% like, is that what we said the other day with like Michael's like, I will do all that I can to help, and he's like naming people. And he sees like the end of it, and it's just like, and Ellen looks at smudged wrist. Whoever that clown is. Alan, whatever. Oh yeah. I remember conversations, I just don't always remember them in detail. What? Okay. Let's keep trucking on this. Alan was having the worst day. It had to be the heat. Systems support could be stressful, often was stressful, But for the most part, it was usually nothing more than solving a series of problems caused by people not thinking properly before doing things to their computers that the computers really didn't deserve. People were usually happy to sit back and let him fix things. They didn't usually want to comment. Today, things were weird. Everyone was in a foul mood. People were raising twice as many support tickets as usual. Mostly little things and issues which were hardly worth an email, issues they should have been able to deal with themselves. People were demanding that someone come and fix their problem now. People were ringing the phones in Alan's fairly crowded little department off the hooks, and by somewhere around 2 o'clock, he felt like he'd walked about 8 miles back and forth across the building. Speed walked, like someone trying to pack in a week's worth of cardio because having to wait 5 minutes for him to show up seemed to be making people worse. And people were being blamey. Most issues were a quick fix, the kind of thing Alan tended to log as RTFM or TUI errors. He didn't exactly expect heartfelt thanks. He really would have appreciated, though, if the people he'd literally just helped didn't turn around and start berating him for causing their problems in the first place. This guy looked about on the verge of a stroke. He was project coordinator in charge of something Alan didn't care about in the sound lab, and he was definitely doing a good job of testing the soundproofing above their heads. He was really yelling. Alan was desperate enough at this point to try to make eye contact with anyone else walking past the desk, in the hope that someone would rescue him before this guy either stabbed him with a protractor or keeled over dead. But so far the only people to stop had just watched, as if they were enjoying the show. "No! I want you to do it again! I want to see exactly what you did so when it screws up again, I don't have to wait for you to get off your ass and get up here!" We actually really prefer it if you let the support department resolve any issues for you, sir. The thing is that when people try to fix things by just pressing random buttons, it only makes things 3 times! 3 times in 1 month, this piece of crap locks up right when I haven't saved. Right at the exact moment. Do you think I'm stupid? I know that remote viewing thing you people can do. I know you're watching me. Alan could feel the familiar sensation of his throat closing up to a pinhole. There were more people around them now. There were so many people listening. "Okay, sir, we are not watching you. We really have better things to... don't you think you're being just a little..." "Don't try that with me. Everyone knows you people are just making work for yourselves to keep your jobs down there." Sir, we definitely aren't. You probably take it in turns to break these pieces of junk so your little buddies can fix them. And you think we don't know? You think we don't know exactly what your game is? Alan heard a shuffling noise behind him. He turned and, with a jolt of surprise, saw that the audience, the group of silent onlookers, had somehow encircled the desk. They were murmuring. Quite a few of them were people he'd helped earlier that same morning. All of them, he realized with a sickish sense of unreality, looked pissed. Faced with the growing crowd, and with the complete, insane, hyperbolic, and horribly fitting phrase lynch mob refusing to budge from the very front of his mind, Alan did the one thing any sensible person would do. He backed away, pushed desperately through the ring of unfriendly faces, and ran like hell. He didn't get far. There we go. Chapter break. I like yelling. It's like one of my favorite things. I love yelling. The breaks kind of help. I would just imagine that, like, my next door neighbors are probably like, what the fuck? But that's okay. All right. Here we Gouda. Here we go. Ugh. 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 Yeah, the chapter breaks are really appreciated, by the way. I bet the person who lives next to Jack has a their own YouTube account, and it's all like reaction videos, like him being woken up in the middle of the fucking night, listening to him go off. Like that has to be right. You have like, yeah, this guy is yelling again, and it's just like somewhere there's like a fucking uh like Twitter rant, or there's a Vine, an old Vine of like him just sitting there like listening to this fucking guy go on. Yeah, and they have no idea who he is. They're just like, this fucking guy. What the hell is this guy doing? That would be amazing. Or you have one where it's like, so apparently I found out that my neighbor thinks he's like a YouTuber. He's a quote unquote YouTuber. I'm sure he's got like 5 people following his channel. Yeah, he's a quote YouTube celebrity. Yeah, buddy, me too. All right, here we go. The guest portion of the institute was towards what employees considered to be the back of the complex. Open to the guests of the neighboring theme park, it was a simple automated drive-through tour that ran guests on a path through all the public areas of the sensory labs. Ellie Fleet was one of the lucky ones, with the job of herding guests in and loading them on. It was the midday rush. Guests were starting to come back from lunch and were looking forward to more relaxing rides to settle their stomachs. A need that the slow, people-mover nature of the Institute tour was more than able to satisfy. Come they did, and soon the line was out the door. The motion sensor on the sliding door had jammed, and as the minutes went by, the Florida Heat seemed to be winning the battle against the air conditioning and gaining territory. Ellie was starting to desperately wish that she could take off her lab jacket, but she'd seen their supervisor chewing out Q earlier for being brazen enough to roll up her sleeves. Stepping out into the sun, Ellie set down the slender metal frame of a sign display, reaching up and feeling the heat on her face as she slid a printed piece into the frame. 60-plus minute wait from this point, it read. It took everything in her to not respond to the groans of the guests in the line behind her as she sidled her way back inside. She was so close to getting back out of the queue when a voice called, "Excuse me?" I'm going to say that one again. "Excuse me?" It had that tone of patronizing patience that Ellie had heard all too often. "What's taking this line so long?" She took a deep breath and turned. The guest was a woman who wore one of those haircuts that said she would definitely fight you at the PTA meeting if you turned her down her offer to join the latest multi-level marketing fad. I'm sorry, miss. We're moving everyone through as fast as we can. I'm sure you are, the woman said, with a voice that said she wasn't sure at all. We've been standing here for at least an hour, and my kids are starting to get rowdy. We paid good money to come here. The least you guys could do is earn it. Did the ride break down and you're not telling us? Ma'am, thank you for your patience, but like I said, we're moving as quick as we can. If you are, you really ought to hire more people if you're going to work this slow. The heat was building, and Ellie could feel her chest start to tense and a snap start to grow in her throat. We are moving as fast as we can, ma'am, she repeated with tense patience. Now, if you don't mind, Before she could say something regrettable, there was a hand on her shoulder. Hey, Ellie. Dean. Boy, was he a sight for sore eyes. Can I talk to you for a second? A second, an hour, a year. Just get me out of here, hissed Ellie, Soto voice, grabbing his arm. Grabbing his arm, she swiveled him neatly between her and the fuming woman, smiling sweetly over his shoulder. Sorry, ma'am. Official guest services business. Have a Disney day. Oh, goodness, Dean muttered to himself as Ellie used him like a human riot shield, parting the crowd like an ill-tempered, mouse-eared sea. Using Dean as a sort of movable barrier, she maneuvered him through the atrium door and into the small equipment room she'd retrieved the sign from, slamming the door with a sigh. Sheesh! Is everyone just super turbo grouchy today, or is it just me? It's not just you, Dean said, fixing his crooked glasses. I just witnessed Channing getting the maddest I've ever seen him. He just told off... The briefest of hesitations. A very good friend of mine. A bit harsher than he should have. He leaned back against a caged shelf of cleaning supplies. Listen, Ellie, I heard something earlier about a guy named Blair. I swear I've seen that name around here in the Institute, but I can't remember where. Help me out? Ellie blinked at him. You're kidding, right? Blair? Blairian Mercurial? She surveyed Dean's baffled face. The Dreamfinder? The guy with the 20-foot tall statue out front? That Blair? Wait, he's that guy? I thought it was, I don't know, just some famous scientist or a major donor or something, he shrugged. Look, I'm usually not fully awake whenever I pass it in the morning. I guess I've just never really stopped to look at it. Well, I can't exactly give you chapter and verse, said Ellie. I flunked history, but I did read the cliff notes on this stuff for my job interview, so... Okay, this guy basically founded the Institute. When all those old-timey British scientists packed up and moved out here in, like, practically the Stone Age or something, they brought all his ideas and inventions with them, you know? A dream can be a dream come true. She tapped a teetering pile of surplus promotional materials at her elbow. It's on the brochure. Have I really not been paying that much attention? Dean muttered to himself as he took a brochure, peeking over the lenses of his glasses to read the print. And he disappeared? Just one day up and left? Well, that kind of explained a lot. And nobody knows where he went, Ellie said in her best mysterious voice, wiggling her fingers for emphasis. Sorry, just moving. Ugh. Huh. Okay. He was just about to ask another question when there was a pounding at the door. Where's one of those damned cast members when you need them? Said a muffled voice that the two vaguely recognized as a man who worked in the taste lab. Always kind and eager to show pictures of his grandkids. He didn't seem to want to do that right now, however. Hey! We got guests out here. Stop lazing around. All right already. Ellie seethed, smacking the metal grill of the door a solid thwunk with the flat of her palm. I swear to Jiminy Cricket, Dino. Let me do that again, because I really like Dino. I swear to Jiminy Cricket, Dino, I'm gonna wind up socking some soccer mom right in the kisser before half shift. Pa-pow! She dealt the grill another blow and recoiled, rubbing her knuckles. Ow. Anyway, I should probably get going before Gramps out there has a conniption. If you want, I can... Before she could finish, the ground, the dusty, tiled floor of the equipment room, bucked under their feet. A resounding sound, not explosion or siren, but a deep, bassy knell that entered the brain through the ribs and bypassed the ears altogether, throbbed through the air, shaking plaster from the ceiling and sending Ellie reeling, grabbing the grill for support. Dean was knocked back as well into a group of brooms, their handles dug into his shoulder blades as he braced against a shelf. Both of them felt their ears pop. What the heck was that? The thrum in Dean's chest dropped into his stomach as he found his voice. Whatever it was, it didn't sound good. The banging on the door began anew. Open this door right now! I know you're in there! We need to find Figment. Dean voiced the first instinctual thought that came to his head. I'm starting to think maybe this isn't just the humidity. The handle on the door was jiggling. Give us a second, please. Sorry. Okay. Give us a second. Jeez, Ellie replied. She was about to bang on the grill again, but clearly remembered the lesson she'd just learned minutes prior. This was the maddest Dean had ever seen the usually happy-go-lucky cast member. She grabbed a broom and was about to hit the grill with it when he took her by the shoulders. Ellie, I need you to stay with me and stay positive. We need to get out of here and find Figment. She blinked at him, then shook her head hard as if trying to dislodge a dense thicket of cobwebs, nearly whipping him across the face with her flying loops of hair. Probably it had been the right thing for him to do. Definitely, as her head came up, there was a strangeness about her pupils, a moment where her eyes had looked a fraction not right. Hazy, the pupils too small. She steadied herself on him and put a shaky hand on her head. What? Find who now? Figment, as in the dragon? She looked up at him properly, and now she was 100% Ellie again, her eyes wide and alive and full of curiosity and concern. Don't you think you're taking that brochure just a teensy bit too seriously? Maybe that was an earthquake or a new fire alarm. Dean squinted. He'd seen the look in Ellie's eyes before she'd suddenly seemed to be herself again. Now he knew for sure something wasn't right, and a part of him, one he wasn't fully aware of, was terrified. A fusillade. A word of heavy thumps. A fusillade of heavy thumps, and what sounded like a few actual enraged kicks on the door behind them startled Ellie out of her guessing. Or maybe we shouldn't hang around to find out. Other door, come on! She yanked Dean by the hand, and he had no choice but to let her drag him between a filing cabinet and an empty display case. A door, and Ellie threw it open for them to come face to face with a security guard. His eyes looked like Ellie's had, his momentary surprise quickly setting into anger. Hey! Pardon us, Dean said as they broke into a run down the hallway, feet frantic against the linoleum tile. He felt it before he saw it. The faintest glimmer of pink out of the corner of his eye, rounding a corner and disappearing down the hall. This way! Dean grabbed Ellie's arm and changed their course, chasing the ball of light. He could hear the guards' feet thudding after them. From the noise, one angry pursuer had already turned into at least 3. It didn't matter a light that there wasn't any reason why they were being chased. That they were both employees, that they'd done nothing wrong. Being chased was a basic human terror. In the moment, there was nothing to do but run. Together, they hurtled into the double doors, under the glowing green emergency sign, bouncing them open and spilling them both out into the hot sunlight. As soon as Dean slammed the heavy doors closed, Ellie rammed the broom she'd snatched from the equipment room across both handles, locking the security guards into the hallway behind them. The furious rattling and yells faded behind them as they jogged down the anonymous concrete backlot strip. "And I thought today was going to be boring," panted Ellie. Dean sped ahead, having to fight to see the spark in the Florida sunshine. It moved in a darting, fluttering manner, as if it was just as eager to get away as they were. He didn't know how he knew it, didn't have time to think of how he knew it. But he knew it was Figment. Scared, alone, hurt, and the thought made... Scared, alone, hurt, and the thought made Dean's heart feel the same. Figment! A small woof of pink and a spark or two, and Figment stumbled into sight like a small lavender DeLorean, tumbling orange horn over wing. He seemed surprised. "Holy macaroni!" breathed Ellie, scrambling for her phone. "He's real." "Dean!" Figment dropped onto Dean's shoulders, grabbing both his cheeks and staring into his eyes. "You're okay." "Sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know why I keep stuttering. Oh my God. Today is just like not my day. I don't know. Today's not my day. I apologize, guys. Also, no reason for you to apologize about using bigger words, because it means that I have to learn these words. And that's not a bad thing. Okay. I just feel bad. Every time I stutter, I feel bad. Because it's not your guys' writing. It's my reading. So... and I gotta cough a lot. Oh. It popped away for a second. Are you guys back? Are we back? Can you hear me? I'm dying. Okay. I won't die. I'll try very hard not to die. However, something that I do need to do. I do really need to do. Is take off my pants. It is so hot in here. I'm sorry, guys. It's like every stream. It's like, do you guys want to hear Fiona just take off her pants? Oh, the pants. That's the real thing that's killing me. The pants. There we go. Pants off. And then I sit on something. Okay. Yep. You guys want to get all up close and personal with me? Here we are. Know that my pants are off as I speak into your ears. I mean, it's good that I'm speaking into your ears. I'd be very concerned if I was speaking into, like, your elbow. Yeah, by Fallout Boy. Sorry, guys. Okay. Shake it out. Hi, May. Hi. You got me at my coughing fit. Okay. Dean! Figment dropped onto Dean's shoulder, grabbing both his cheeks and staring into his eyes. You're okay! You look okay! He pulled up one of Dean's eyelids with a small paw, then set his head against the side of his temple, listening intently. You sound okay! You're okay! Dean blinked rapidly as Figment knocked his glasses askew in his inspection. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm me. I'm glad you're okay. Hey, Figment! Both Figment and Dean looked up, only to get a dazzling eyeful of Ellie's camera flash. Whoops, sorry. I guess it's kind of dark, all of a sudden. It was. The sunshine that had been so blinding just a few minutes before had faded to a leaden hush, like the false twilight before a storm. Dean looked up. The clouds were crazy, dark loops and whirls of thunderheads gathering over the glassy peaks of the Institute, as if the whole place was some awful lightning rod. They hardly looked like normal clouds, purplish, greenish, and sullen. They barely looked real. The sky rumbled like a dark laugh as they felt the air grow heavier. Dean voiced what both of them were thinking aloud. What the heck is going on here? Blair's machine would never do something like this, Figment said from Dean's shoulder. Blair... Oh, Dreamfinder. I know who that is now. Dean's pride lasted only a second. Wait, his what? The thingamabob. Dreamfinder made this nifty machine that made his imagination come to life. It's how he found me. The little dragon smiled at the memory. I thought it was gone, but I saw it in there. But I've never seen it do that. How have I not heard of this guy? I was going to get help, but then I found you. Dean got his cheek squished yet again, and Figment zipped over to Ellie, offering a hand. That's me. I'm Figment. Nice to meet ya. I'm Ellie. Ellie shook the small paw enthusiastically. Salutations, Figment. It's an honor to meet ya. I've got a hat with you on and everything. Ah, neat, Figment said. I asked if I could get one, but they don't fit me. Another deep rumble lumbered its way through the air. Figment, you have any idea what this is all about? Dean asked. The little dragon drew a deep breath. Well, I guess I was a little upset. Drink of water, drink of water. Figment in a baby Figment hat. Figment in a baby Figment hat. It must exist. It needs to exist. Baby in a baby hat. Having no physical form was a little like being in a dream. Figment could see everything around him, was aware of everything, but there was a vagueness to the world, a softness to the edges of things, and a tantalizing sense that if he reached out, he would be able to touch them. But he couldn't quite reach out. What Dr. Channing had said felt heavy inside of him, in the stomach he didn't currently have. He drifted, not particularly heading anywhere, only aware that he was in the Institute. It felt like home. The only one he had. Now. Where did you go, Dreamfinder? Why did you leave me behind? The one thing Figment could be sure of was that Blair was okay. He had to be, because he, Figment, still existed. When being apart felt hard to bear, he held tightly to that fact. In himself, he was proof that Blair was alive and well, somewhere. Not heeding where he drifted, the unhappy little dragon might have pondered the whole day away, if a sudden pang, almost a pain, hadn't struck out of nowhere. Snapping out of his funk, he focused, as much as a little pink ball of dream energy could focus, at least. Something was terribly wrong. Usually, the Institute felt alive, buzzing with thought and energy, the minds of the scientists and guests and casts mingling to make a bright glow of human potential that Figment often thought must be visible from space. But as the humidity rose and the clouds started to gather, the sulky snappiness he'd seen in everyone earlier in the day grew into something worse, something tense and oppressive and nearly painful. Figment had felt something like it before, once. Once or twice. The little glow trembled uncertainly over the taller of the two pyramids. Dr. Channing would probably still be mad at him, but he needed to know, if he didn't already, that something was wrong. Wrong. The only thing Figment could think of was Blair, and the last time he'd felt something like this, he had to warn people. He didn't have a choice. Blair would, if he was here. So Figment zipped towards the main atrium, and was just about to make a beeline for Channing's office when it struck him how quiet and still the space was. The few people in sight stood here and there in weird, slumped poses, hardly moving. They all seemed to be watching the dais. Forgive me on that one, that was stupid of me. Watching the dais. A raised half-circle platform for events and announcements, but the stage was empty. Then, a terrible crackling, a jagged, spiky, bassy note that hurt to listen to. The air above the dais flickered. There was a shape, nothing, two shapes, a moment of eye, hurting bewilderment, when there seemed to be both at once, and then all at once there was something that struck a bolt of terror straight to the heart of what Figment was and sent him racing, speeding for help. Drink of water. It was Dr. Channing, said Figment, who was flitting back and forth anxiously, biting on his small paw. But he was holding Blair's thingamajig, his mesmonic converter, except it looked weird and smelled bad, and Blair smashed it to pieces, and his shadow was... Worg? Tried Ellie. No, worg, insisted Figment, waggling his fingers urgently. All kinds of spooky and ugh. Ugh? Dean had his own go at it. Exactly, Figment inexplicably snapped his fingers. Channing can have his moments, but... Dean stopped talking for a moment, as somehow the sentence tried to grapple with his heart. It passed as quickly as it came, but I don't think he'd do something like this. They all looked up at the clouds for a moment. So what do we do now? Call the police or something? Ellie asked, pulling up her phone again as Figment sat on her head tilting as he watched her try to open it. All my bars are gone. Dean, no reception. The clouds overhead seemed to thicken. I think we need to go back in there, Dean concluded. Figment, do you remember where you saw the the thingamajig? In the atrium of Dr. Channing's lab, Figment jittered. Last time Blair destroyed it, so to release dream power. In the atrium of Dr. Channing's lab, Figment jittered. Last time Blair destroyed it to release dream power across the whole place. If we can get a hold of it again, I bet we can fix this. Even if it is... He cut himself off, shuddering, and launched himself from Ellie's head to hover above them. It's this way. The two followed the imaginary dragon as he zipped along the building, around the back of what Dean figured had to be Dr. Brainerd's lab. His thoughts couldn't help but turn to Alan. He hoped he was safe. For more reasons than if he was under, it meant Dean would be out of a best friend. They came to a freight door up the metal walkway, and Dean grabbed the handle. The garage-like door wouldn't shift an inch. Great. We can just find another door, Ellie started to say, looking back. If we go around to the back of Zelinki's slab. Dean didn't hear her, nor did Figment, whose attention had been caught by Dean. Figment knew that look anywhere. Dean was getting an idea. Figment, he pointed up. Can you get in through the air conditioning? Okie dokie smoky! The grill, presumably designed by people who had watched at least one action movie in their lives, was too small for a human. But it wasn't too small for something the size of Figment, especially not when that something could fly. The little dragon fluttered up to the hatch, prized the flimsy plastic slats up one side, and pushed it the rest of the way with his snout, and shouldered inside. Less than a minute, and the freight door clicked open to reveal a chilled and shivering Figment, who shot through and wrapped himself up in the loose fold of Dean's lab coat. It feels colder when you're inside it. The aircon wasn't the only thing that was cold. As the door opened, a billow of mist poured out in a way that neither human nor dragon should have been surprised by, given the theatrical amusement park they were standing in. The difference was, this was a dingy backlot freight truck access, and secondly, the mist was a sickly, damp green. It seeped into Dean's socks and made his shoes feel like he'd just stepped into a swamp, and it clung to the floor while never seeming to fully dissipate. He swallowed thickly, holding Figment close. Can we do this? Ellie said, sounding more like she was trying to convince herself than the others. We can do this, right? Of course. Dean found the words, stepping inside. Simple. We just get to Channing's lab, turn the thingamajig off, and boom, day saved. Making sure to roll the door shut behind them, the team ventured in. Figment wiggled out of Dean's arms to float close to his shoulder as they went. We just have to get through here and up the main stairs, he whispered. The room ahead was a relatively small open-plan office full of computer workstations. Most of them had 2 monitors, the wide banks of the screens shielding the occupants from view. Dean crouched and ventured forwards, Ellie following his lead, as they slowly navigated the twists and turns of the cluttered floor space. The hush in the room was eerie. Through the desks, Dean could see motionless legs, dangling shoes, the occupants sitting in their chairs as if nothing was normal. Oh, let me redo that. The hush in the room was eerie. Through the desks, Dean could see motionless legs, dangling shoes, the occupants sitting in their chairs as if anything was normal. Except they were hardly moving or making a sound. The only noise was the racing click of keys from all sides. Motioning for the others to follow, he eased up against the corner of a desk and peered gingerly around it, and was just about to give the all clear when he happened to glance up and spot, just inside his field of vision, the desk's occupant. It was Alan. He was awake, at least as far as his eyes were open, and his hands were moving, rattling across the keyboard at full speed. His shoulders were slumped, and his eyes, the pupils, pinpricks, were riveted to the screen, and there was a dead and distant glaze in them, like the windows of an empty house. Alan! Dean covered his mouth the moment he said the name, but Alan didn't seem to notice. No one did. Dean? Ellie said, somewhere behind him. Come on, let's go. Hang on. Dean peered over the edge of the desk again.
He couldn't see what Alan was typing, just a glow that seemed to match the fog around them. A bright, eerie green that made his friend's face look sullen. "Alan," Dean whispered. A pair of yellow eyes followed, also peering over the edge of the desk as Dean raised himself up. "It's me, Dean. Can you hear me?" "Go away, Dean," said Alan, and the small purple snout hooked over the edge of the desk at Dean's side started in surprise. The fog, the horrible, heavy feeling in the air, the passive, captive people. Figment had seen this all before, but last time the victims of the fog had been moaning, speechless zombies. He hadn't expected words. Dean's friend didn't look at either of them, didn't look away from the glowing screen. His voice was low and expressionless. "I'm working. I have to get this done." Checking to make sure the coast was still clear, Dean rounded the desk, craning his head to see what Alan was working on so intently his fingers hadn't stopped moving even as he spoke to him. All Dean could catch was Alan seemed to be on a forum of some sort. The header on the green-tinged screen was one of those all-seeing eye symbols. Dean wasn't very computer fluent, but talking to Alan had given him more than enough info to know how to recognize a conspiracy site when he saw one. "Alan, what the heck are you doing? This isn't you." "Isn't it?" asked Alan in the same blank monotone. "Sooner or later you have to ask yourself, who am I kidding? A bachelor's in film production? A student loan the size of a small country's budget deficit? And I'm sitting here every day helping people 6 times over my pay grade find their login password. And then I don't sleep because I'm going home and agonizing over stuff I can't make because I can't talk and nobody would care anyway. I mean, why even bother? If I ever had a shot, I missed it." He hit the post on the wall of text he'd been writing and immediately shifted to a new tab. This one seemed to be full of blurry photos of celebrities. "Post your reptilian elite pics here." "I don't know why it took me so long to realize," he mumbled, beginning to type again. "Maybe because I didn't want to. Anyway, you should go. I'm behind enough as it is." Dean's face fell, remembering the times Alan had confided those exact fears to him, mostly on particularly raw bus rides home. Sometimes the path we think we should take isn't always the one we end up following. He touched Alan's arm as Ellie fidgeted on the ground behind them. Figment smiled as Dean started to remind him of a certain someone. "The Alan I know is clever, smart, and funny. Who cares if you're charismatic? If you have something you care about and you do it with passion, people will listen. But first we need to get you out of here. Alan, listen to me." "This isn't..." The miserable blank on Alan's face started to crack. A small frown landsliding into a bigger one as he stared at the screen. Now he sounded like he was struggling, fighting to answer a question he couldn't quite remember. This guy was yelling, and then everyone went all Romero on me, and I don't know what? He blinked hard, shook his head, then all of a sudden started and pulled his hands off the keys as if they'd turned red hot. "What the hell am I writing? Chemtrails? The moon landing?" He switched tab after tab frantically. "Subliminal advertising, creationism, flat earth theory." "Dean!" He swung around on his friend, grabbing him by his shoulders. His eyes were their usual gray-green, horrified and bewildered and alive. "We've got to get out of here." Dean had never been so happy to see Alan freaking out. Wait. His grip on him tightened as Alan tried to get up out of his seat. "Hang on a second." "Hey!" Figment spoke up as Dean dragged Alan to join their hiding place behind his desk. "You freed him!" Dean knew exactly what was coming. Figment, no! Too late. The little dragon was already up in Alan's face, offering a hand. Hi, I'm Figment. Dean's told me a lot about you. Alan went very still. Dean, he said very calmly, are you seeing a flying purple dragon in front of me right now? Yes, I am. And before I go on, I need you to know the flying purple dragon can hear you too, Dean said as Ellie snapped a picture of Alan's face. This is Figment. And he's real. As real as an imaginary spark can get, the little dragon boasted proudly. That's great, said Alan weakly, watching Figment like someone might watch a loose bear wandering towards them. Cool. Definitely the kind of thing I expected when I got out of bed this morning. And I'm Ellie, whispered Ellie, shaking his hand from her hiding spot under the desk. You work with Dean, right? No, I'm actually in IT. Oh, neat. Hey, can you take a look at my phone? It keeps doing this thing where... Sorry, interrupted Alan. It's very nice to meet you. I don't mean to be rude, but could one of you maybe tell me what the heck is going on? Figment opened his mouth, but Dean gently nudged him aside. Maybe I should take this one, buddy. Figment only looked sad for a second before he took to sitting on Dean's shoulder. Long story short, Figment says he saw Channing with some sort of mesmonic converter, both Ellie and Figment offered at the same time. Yeah, that. And while I'm not completely sure exactly what that is, we do know it's probably what's been making everyone cranky and causing all, well, this. Dean gestured vaguely at the fog around them. We're heading to Channing's lab to shut it down, and hopefully that will fix all this. He paused, surveying Alan's face. Take your time. I know this is a lot. Maybe don't take too much time, said Ellie nervously. She was watching the blank row of faces across the way. Alan's mesmerized colleagues. They all looked pretty deeply under, but it wasn't too hard to remember the furious expressions of the security guards or the guests before that. The locals seemed kinda restless. Alan scrabbled in his desk drawer, pulling out his ID lanyard. No, I'm good. Let's go. Dean exchanged a look with Figment. You sure you're okay? Okay? Alan had already started to edge along the row of desks. No? Are you stupid? I'm scared out of my mind, and I'm pretty sure I've lost my grip on reality. But I also don't want to get lynched by a bunch of hypnotized help desk nerds, thank you. We're going now. Dean gave both Ellie and Figment a look before getting up, following after Alan. In retrospect, this had probably been a brilliant idea. Systems supports had clearance to go almost anywhere in the building. If anyone could get them into Channing's lab, it was probably Alan. Carefully, the group crept towards the door, staying close to the fog that clung to the floor. Daring a glance, Dean could see everyone else in the room seemed to be doing the exact thing Alan had. Typing long blocks of text on web pages and comment sections, all of them having to do with a pseudoscience of some sort. Remaining quiet, they seemed to be getting away without any of the living bots noticing them. A security guard passed outside the door as Dean reached for the handle. He waited for him to pass before turning to the other three. Okay, so Channing's lab is to our left, down the hall, then to the right, if I'm correct. I say we make a break for it. Figment gulped and nodded, sticking close to Dean's shoulder. Ellie had been rummaging in the cable ties under the last desk they'd passed and came up with a long, blocky power strip trailing a plug. It wasn't the most deadly weapon, but with the cord wrapped around her fist, it looked like a fairly solid argument. Ready, she hissed. Alan didn't reply right away. As Dean reached up to crack the door, he touched his arm. Thanks, he said quietly. Dean gave a small smile. Glad to have you back, buddy. chapter break. She's weaponized. Oh my god, evil villain things? I'm excited for that. I'm doing okay. I'm sorry um May, I was just telling Sam and Aaron before I started that uh I wasn't feeling 100% today. I wanted to do this. I just wasn't feeling like 100%. And I ate like a giant hot dog and my body was just like, "No, I don't want to do anything." So, I've been enjoying it, but I've also been kind of struggling a bit more than I should normally struggle. So, uh oh no, no, Sam, it's fine. Like I want to do this, and I'm really enjoying it. And I honestly, I'm just grateful that you guys want me to read your stuff and are happy to indulge me in showing up to this live stream and listening to me waffle on. So, um, no, you guys are great, and um, I'm just sorry if I seem a bit. Whew. I don't feel like I have to stop. I just feel like I'm gonna get through the first chapter. I think I might wait to do a second chapter though, and I might not read more today. This might be it for today. I'm happy to stay around and chat for a little bit, but I think just like, I don't know what it is. I wasn't prepared today. Like the other 2 days that I've done this, I was like prepared. Like my brain was like, yes. I just thought of Eleanor. My brain's horny for knowledge. Um, so my brain was horny for live streaming, and today I just woke up. My alarm woke me up early, and there's like other people in the house, and I've just been like just low key annoyed most of the day. So um it's nobody's fault, and I love what I'm reading. I just feel like I'm a bit bleh, but that's okay. I have eaten, oh, Ren. I have eaten a vegetable. Uh oh wait, no I haven't. I had grapes and an orange and a hot dog. Oh, I did have a vegetable. I had an onion on my hot dog. There you go. Um it's okay. So, I've been drinking water the whole time. Um Hot dogs are a vegetable. I'm gonna argue with you. Hot dogs are a vegetable because we don't know what they're made of. They could be anything. There's cornstarch in a hot dog. That comes from corn. I had a vegetable adjacent today. No, I had onion on my hot dog, okay? Oh, y'all are judging. Y'all are judging. It counts. Look, I had grapes when I woke up this morning. I had grapes and I had oranges and I had tea. You know what, May? I'm not going to argue with you over my choices. Oh, she judging. Oh, she judging. Oh, Ren, I was gonna say, you don't go here, but you've been enjoying it. I'm really glad for that. Uh, I'm always not sure, like, how long have you been here, by the way? Have you just been like creeping on us? I usually have, like, every night I have a salad with my dinner. So I'm gonna have salad tonight, okay?
And I have spinach and I have lettuce in my salad, okay? Okay. Oh, Ren, I'm glad. I was like not sure. Like it doesn't tell me when people are in the chat. It doesn't tell me how many people are here or anything like that. So, um I never know. um uh, yeah, no. I know, Ren. I know, Ren. Like, I'm not offended. I'm not actually offended. I'm just fucking with all of you, so. I'll, high water content. I've been slamming back the water. I've been slamming back the water. Crunch. Crunch it. Crunch it in your teeth. Um, wet crunch sounds bad, Aaron. I'm just gonna throw that there. Get that wet crunch. Get that wet crunch. Yikes. Yikes at doodles. Oh, do I have to say get it done as well? I do. I do, don't I? Get it done. I did, Aaron. I had to. Or you can do it. You can do it like get her done. Get her done. You can do the Tooth Fairy. That horrible Larry the Cable Guy. Time for me to saddle up and get her done. Alright, I'm gonna go get me some water. I'll be right back. Don't have any after sadness. It'll be okay. Water time. Water time. Water. I don't know if humanity was a mistake. I certainly was. Where are my headphones? Oh, there's my headphones. Yeah, what's she doing? How is she? Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. If I made humans, I'd be full of regret as well. I'm just getting silly, you guys. That's the problem. I get silly sometimes and I get all silly. Okay, here we go. Aw, thank you. As I try to do like impressions, and it's one of those things where I try to do like I'll try to do an accent and I'll be like, "Oh, I'm really bad at this," but sometimes I don't think I'm really bad at it. I just say that because I'm a garbage human being, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm kind of bad at it." Oh, kind of bad. Because I'm trying to be humble, all right? It's really hard when you're awesome at everything. Okay. Here we go. Nigel Channing had been the most delicious meal Doubt had had in years. The man was practically a living, breathing ball of anxiety. A spring wound wound so tight that even the slightest disturbance could set off. It had been that easy, just a little nudge, and the chairman unraveled, wide open for Doubt to sink in their icy grip. Once their new business partner had secured their shiny new food source,
Doubt left the chairman in a dense cloud of fear and uncertainty. They drifted to the floor, breathing in the green fear fog, and the sharp inhale sent them upwards. Shadows twisted and curled together, forming human limbs and coattails, all of it topped off with a top hat. That Dreamfinder had been the biggest hurdle Doubt had ever faced. But you had to admit, it thought to itself as its teeth curled into a smile, this form sure did radiate power. Doubt needlessly straightened its lapels before they formed back into its body, walking around to get the hang of having 2 legs again. The real Channing was silent, slumped over for now. Doubt had to admit maybe they had eaten a little more than they should have. He'd be up sooner or later. Then they could start asking the chairman for what he knew about where their nemesis had disappeared off to. Their green eyes shifted to the other side of the lab, where another, different Nigel Channing stood in front of a large spherical machine, tossing a bulky helmet from hand to hand. Zeitgeist. Doubt's voice was low, permanently set to sinister. Have you figured that thing out yet? Oh, I'm getting there. It wasn't Channing's voice. Maybe that voice was there, the set dressing of each word, but it was layered with something deeper and far more unpleasant. A tone that crawled up the listener's backbone to the brain and lodged there, giggling. The thing turned, flashing a grin with an intensity and venom that Nigel Channing had never approached in his life. There were too many teeth in it. It's outdated junk, but there's such a lot of potential. We just have to bring it up to the now. Doubt moved to his side, taking the helmet and turning it over in their shadowy hands. Doubt thought, thinking back to when they and Dreamfinder had been one and the same. Bits and pieces, they could remember that they had leached off his mind, that sickeningly bright mind. But this machine would be put to far better use than creating dream power. The thoughts of guests unwittingly lining up only to be plugged into this made a giddy feeling bubble up in Doubt's core. And everyone in the building is under? They asked their partner. Will you stop worrying? Snapped the other Channing. Normally, I'd be all about pointless misgivings, but in your case, it's really starting to get on my nerves. Of course they're all under. Do you think any ordinary human mind stands a chance against such a potent cocktail of doubt and, well, me? Do I need to remind you that this is one of the smart ones? He prodded Channing's slumped body with a foot. Need I remind you, Doubt replied, that we don't fully know for sure if the one man who can potentially stop us is still out there somewhere? The Zeitgeist rolled Channing's eyes as he set the helmet down. What is it with you and that guy? He said. He's no problem. He's gone, and there's no way that weak little spark could do anything, even if it shows up. On the floor, the real Channing started to stir, but both knew there was nothing the chairman could do. Doubt was about to argue further when there was a loud thud just outside the door to the lab. Both entities turned sharply, and the Zeitgeist hissed. That's not one of mine, he snarled. I smell free thinking. Is that the spark? Another crash outside the door, a muffled conversation. Ellie! I was aiming for his shins! Oh my God, Alan! Just give me a second. Another crash, a whiz of energy, and then the innocuous beep of an entry keypad. The double doors opened and 3 humans tumbled through, Dean somehow landing at the top of the pile as Figment charged in after the group. The legs of a passed-out security guard were visible for a moment before the door shut. Doubt's eyes turned to the zeitgeist. Doubt's eyes turned to the zeitgeist as Dean popped up. Channing! Stop this right now! Oh, I'm sorry. The thing wearing Channing's form grinned even wider. His eyes looked like Alan's had, like the guards. Too pale, hazy, the pupils ink spots at the centers. But there was something even worse about this. There was no touch of humanity struggling in those eyes. It was like looking into a well, all the way down. And Figment's small claws tightened in the back of Dean's shirt as he realized that this wasn't Doubt or one of his puppets at all. This was something new. Dean, whispered Ellie, leaning in as they watched a drip of something black slide down the side of their boss's face. I don't think that's Channing. Dr. Channing isn't here right now, but if you'd like to leave a message. It is the spark, whispered Doubt, spreading out the dark fingers and rising behind the zeitgeist like a living shadow. Well, well, it's been a while, you little monster. Where's the Dreamfinder? Dreamfinder isn't here, Dean said, sounding about 10 times braver than he felt. So you'll have to deal with us. Doubt sunk into the shadows, darting like a shot between the zeitgeist's legs and across the lab, rising up and arcing over the two and giving Dean a straight look into its jagged, bright teeth. Liar! If that meddlesome spark is here, that means he can't be far behind. I told you, sniggered the zeitgeist. Your precious nemesis probably kicked the bucket already. He's human. Humans die all the time. They're very, very good at it. Falling over themselves to come up with new ways to do it. Take it from me. He's not dead, bristled Figment into the Doubt's shapeless face. He's just... Gone? Finished the zeitgeist, advancing, his face a mask of mock sympathy under the dark goo slipping slowly from his hairline like thick blood from a wound. What a shame. Doubt scowled, but relented, easing back. Dean realized he'd been holding his breath. And if he's smart, Zeitgeist continued, pacing a little and surveying the ragtag team, he'll never come back. The world has changed too much, become far too complex for an old coot like him. Those ones are always the easiest to fool. Anyway, they tucked their hands behind their back. What makes you think some minimum wage workers like you have the authority to stop us? Because you're righteous? Good? Because you believe the worthless sentiments a corporate company peddles under the guise of story? Alan pushed Ellie behind him and stabbed a finger at the Channing thing. He was shaking with rage. You made me write lies on the internet! The righteous thing? I'll go with that, said Ellie, holding up her power strip like a tour guide's umbrella. But I'm honestly along for the ride. And I'm here because nobody hurts my friends, Dean declared. Real or imaginary? What he said, Figment added proudly, straightening up on Dean's arm. Now I'm only going to ask this once. Dean tried to look as menacing as he could muster. Leave the Institute alone and never come back. Doubt's face did the closest thing it could to a buckle, and then it burst out laughing, a sound that filled the room with a deep, bassy tone that went straight to the chest. I say bassy, sorry. A deep, bassy tone that went straight to the chest. I was really hoping that would work, Dean muttered, as Alan gave him a pointed look. Well, partner, Doubt said, once it caught its unseated breath, looking to the zeitgeist. Forget Channing. I think we should break this one first. Look, May, bass and bass, I say the wrong thing every time. The zeitgeist smiled and snapped his fingers. From the gloom, the corners, and the odd angles of lab equipment all around, Dr. Channing's staff stepped out in a dead-eyed fog. I'm going to repeat that sentence. From the gloom, the corners, and the odd angles of lab equipment all around, Dr. Channing's staff stepped out in a dead-eyed, fog-shrouded ring. Ellie yelped as two of them grabbed for her, swinging her makeshift weapon on its cord. She clocked one of them straight in the chin, but the other swatted it out of her hands and pulled her arms roughly behind her. Alan made a grab for the power strip as it clattered across the ground, but another lab assistant grabbed the back of his shirt and slammed him against the side of a solid generator unit, pinning him there. Why not? I have to admit, I was expecting more of a challenge. He reached out and clamped his hand directly over Ellie's mouth. She struggled furiously, squeaked a battery of noises under the blackened fingers, but eventually lost the fight and breathed out in a gasping huff. Ha! The zeitgeist curled his hand around her escaping breath and changed. The shape shrank, twisted, the colors shifted, clothes and hair raveling down, and before Ellie's appalled eyes another Ellie smiled back and winked at her with clouded, sharp-pupiled eyes. Gullible, easily led, totally incapable of appreciating how useless her one talent really is in this world. Optimism. Peh! The Ellie thing spat. The last refuge of the sheep. Maybe the slaughterhouse is a nice place after all. Can't be that bad, right? The zeitgeist whipped suddenly around on Alan, catching his shocked exhale in a fist that shifted and warped around it. A ghastly moment, and Alan found himself staring into his own smirking face. Now you could be one of mine. I can smell it. What's wrong, little skeptic? Cat got your tongue? Leave them alone, Alan managed. He sounded like he was hyperventilating. What a hero, said the zeitgeist. He turned away, utterly dismissive, his shape sliding fluidly back into that of the chairman. So much for the happiest place on earth. Figment had been grabbed by a cloudy-eyed man who looked like he was a security guard. His massive hands pinned Figment's wings to his back, and the strong grip made it impossible to wiggle out. Dean had been powerless to help, as another guard had grabbed him. Doubt whipped around up the dais, unable to hold back a small laugh as it pulled down a heavy switch. The machine hummed to life, pistons firing and gears clanking in a bellow of smoke. Now, if you're all employees of this fabulous institution... The zeitgeist voice was dripping with as much sarcasm as his face currently was, just plain dripping. You all must know about this hunk of junk. Using dreams to make matter and all that bunk. He turned as the machine made an impressive chug, the fog in the room starting to deviate into an intake vent as the rickety machine pumped even harder. Rhyme not intended. Obviously past its prime, but my partner had a fabulous idea. Doubt flicked a few more switches, and the machine turned over. What about matter from fear? Doubt beckoned with a slender finger, and Dean was pushed forward. Hey, let go of me! Or what? The zeitgeist smiled. A sorry excuse for an Imagineer like you is a perfect test subject. Dean was tossed into a chair. Doubt stopped the rolling wheels with its foot, and it already had the helmet in hand. No! Dean struggled. There was no breaking free. His heart felt like ice as the helmet slipped over his head, darkening his vision. Through the goggles, he could see Figment struggling, those yellow eyes wide as he tried to break free of the guard holding him. Dean sighed. He'd failed. Granted, his plan hadn't been the best in the first place. Charge in and hope for the best? Good strategy, genius. The helmet thrummed around him. What was he even doing here in the Institute, or even putting his life on the line for? He was a nobody, with a life barely worth remembering. He had 3 friends in this world, and one of them was his imaginary dragon. Wait. His dragon? Idiot. He wasn't yours. He was Dreamfinder's. And if he could see him right now, he'd probably be so disappointed. He was just Dean. Lowly, tired. So very tired. Why was he so tired? He felt like he was asleep. Had been asleep. The helmet sparked. He had to wake up. He had to wake up. He couldn't go to sleep again. He was a dreamer. He was a doer. He was a bright spark that could not be repressed. Shut it off! Doubt bellowed. For fear's sake, shut it off! The converter was shuddering and sparking, the green lightning licking it now a brilliant blue. The air was so charged that Ellie's hair was lifting from her head. He had to wake up. He had to wake up. Dean! Figment clapped his little teeth down on the guard's hand, and the man yowled, letting go immediately in surprise. Figment pumped his wings harder than he ever had before, so focused on Dean that the dragon wasn't aware of the bright purple aura that had grown around him. He reached out a clawed hand, speeding for Dean. The metal sphere buckled and groaned as its metal folded like paper. Contact between dragon and human, and then there was a bright flash, and a sound that split the very air, ringing in everyone's ears. Then, Blair Mercurial, the Dreamfinder, woke up. And that's the end of chapter 1. I slurred his name. Blair Mercurial. Blair Mercurial. Mercurial. Oh, damn it. Yay! I had a lot of fun in that last part because there's just so much shouting and he 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 he, I'm going to be evil, ha 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 ha. Blair Mercurial. Oh, Ock, you're here. Oh, I feel so bad. We basically just finished. Blair reading his own name. Blair, it's been a while. No, you are not a jerk. You're late, but you're not a jerk. Yeah, I was, I earlier just told everybody that, I wasn't super feeling it today. I'm happy to do it, and I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to reading the rest of this one, next week. Or, at least the next chapter. Because it's, a 3-chapter fic. But I'm just, bleh. Yeah, yeah. At that point, you're spelling his name in Roman numerals. I like that. I really like this, and I think you guys have done such a good job on it. And I don't know. It's anytime, this is something that I find with I haven't read a lot of the stuff that you write. I've read a lot of the stuff Aaron has, but I can tell the moments, I don't know, you both are very good at caring about your characters and What I mean is that when there's an emotional moment, it's like a real emotional moment. It's like you care that this is happening to these people, and that was something that I really liked about this fic when I first read it, because I'll be honest, the first time I read it, like Aaron was like, "Oh, can you please read this thing?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I'll read it. Sure, I guess I'll read it, because it wasn't really like I didn't really know the characters or what was going on. But reading it made me care about them, because the emotional the emotions are there, and it connects with its audience in a really good way. And so I knew about CD, and I think when you sent it to me, I knew CD, and I kind of I knew who Alan was, kind of. No, even though, here's the thing, Aaron, here's the thing. You are the person who gets me into things. There's a lot of stuff that I'm not there's a lot of things I've connected with because you're connected to it and you're involved with it. And you're my friend. And so when you're interested in something, I want to hear about it. And it's not I know I was like, oh, I guess I'll read it, but it's not a chore for me to read it. It's just getting into that mind space to do something when you don't have that connection to it originally. So you're a person who gets me into things. I mean, you're the reason I got into the Tooth Fairy fandom. I was I was seeing you guys all with your Tooth Fairy stuff, and I was like, yeah, I don't get it. And then I started reading from the start the Purge's lore blog, and I was like, oh no, I'm into it. I'm super into it. Yeah, well, I still would say, I still don't know a ton about Figment. I still don't know a lot about, like, Blair or things like that, and the Dreamfinder stuff, but I'm always happy to hear about it. May hadn't played Portal 2. Yeah. It's funny, that's actually how I met everybody. I met everybody through Portal. That's how I met Aaron. And I think that's that's basically how we all met. Okay. So when I first started getting into Portal, I had just moved to Vancouver. I'd moved to New Westminster, and I didn't have a computer, so I was going to the library every day to use my hour of free library time to browse Tumblr and look up Portal fanfic. Because I just played the game and I loved it. So, and then that's how I found all of you guys. No, this has nothing to do with Stephen Merchant, and he can keep his gormless face out of here. I'm sorry. I mean, yes. I mean, to be fair, we were all kind of Wheatley fans. So, and I'm still a Wheatley fan. I love Wheatley. And I love Tracy, but I could leave Stephen Merchant out of it. And yeah, Sam, sorry, I was just reading over the comments again. Sam, if you want to send me that comic, I would be totally down. That would be really cool of you. And And yeah, Blue Sky, because we all read Blue Sky. It was so good. It's so good. Top, like, one of my, I'm trying to think. I think it's probably, Blue Sky is probably in my top, yeah, my top 3 favorite fanfics of all time. But Blue Sky is the fanfic that I think changed my life the most, which sounds really, like, silly, I guess, but, like, for me it was just something I got so excited about and so involved in, and then that was sort of like what kept me in the community and the portal stuff. So uh so yeah, no, Blue Sky changed my life. I have a Blue Sky, I have a picture that oh shit, who drew that? Anyways, I have portal art on the wall. I have a little bit, I've got 2 pieces of portal up. I know, Ren, but I feel dumb saying it. I was like, I read a fanfic and it, like, changed my life. And it makes me feel silly, but it's not silly because if you said I read a book and it changed my life, like, people don't think that's silly. So we're all clowns here. But yeah, I've got 2 things of, like, Blue Sky, like, art that people made. Yeah. You're feeling it too, May. Aaron is just like an epicenter of, like fandom stuff. But also keeping in mind, like, Sam is the person, Sam and Aaron are both the people who have introduced me to this. And Sam, you are brilliant and wonderful. And you also, like, were part of the Tooth Fairy thing. And, like, I interacted with you a number of times in the Tooth Fairy fandom and things like that. And you made that a great experience, just like you make this a really great experience. And I really appreciate that. It's all very, very good. Oh, so we have Sam to thank for the Dream Finder. Thank you, Sam. You are the Dream Founder. Sorry, I'm just reading your guys' stuff. That's all. Dream Founder. And now I've taken a wrecking ball with Aaron and smashed Michael into an RP with Ellie and Alan and Figment and all of them, and I feel we'll see how that goes. Michael is bad Michael. Michael is bad Michael. And he's gonna be bad Michael for a while. Oh, he's not technically a demon. And besides, the term demon is racist. He's just teeth. He's just a lot of teeth. We've not really done, like, a ton yet. We've not really done a ton yet. I think we have about... What? He doesn't know it yet, but he really likes Ellie. not like likes, but, like, as a friend. Ellie and him, I think they're gonna be good friends. I'm excited for that. He's the concept of teeth. It's very hard to explain this. In the way that in the way that Michael...
So I kind of drew from like fanfic, but I also drew from like my own ideas about what Michael's quote unquote true form is, which is a boundless teeth entity with no real definite form. So that's fun. But he mostly is, yeah, my lock screen is actually just teeth. And it's so cute. I had, okay. Yeah, so I was at school. Um he's definitely teeth. Fairy, I'm not so sure about. I was at school and this guy looked over and he saw all these teeth in the back on the background of my phone. And he's like, "Oh my god, that's gross. What is that?" And not thinking, just pure gut reaction, I said, "Don't. He's so cute. He's my boyfriend. Don't say that." Like, not even thinking. And yeah, like and he looked at me like it was the most, like I was the most disgusting human being he'd ever seen, which is fair and possibly true. But but like, yeah, it was a bit awkward. It was a bit. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Well, no, Rafat's like a super nice guy. He's like a nice guy, but he was like, yuck, what? Yeah. Yeah, it's true, Aaron. That's very true. He's more interested in rending people apart limb by, limb from limb and stuff like that, but he's having a lot of fun right now. And he's so excited. He's so excited. Yeah! You know what, Ren? I stand that. um yeah. It's gone weird places, but I'm very happy with it going weird places. I'm very okay with that. Um and like, it's kind of like, I don't know, I could be just teeth. That's fine. Maybe Michael decides to be a sexy woman and I'll just be the teeth. I'm fine with that. It's cool. um yeah. Don't just assume, Ren. God. Um no, so like yeah, I drew on you know the story that I read the other day, which was like, where are you gonna run to? I drew some inspiration from that, and then, like I said, from some other headcanony stuff that I was talking to. There's somebody on Tumblr called Korzov, and I really like them, and I like, I think I read her fic as well, Be Here, and um oh May, it's okay. Oh May, it's okay. There's a song to that. I just don't have it yet. I cannot do lyrics on demand. Anyways, um but yeah. So we've written, I just assumed that Aaron would have said something, but I guess you didn't. I'm sorry. Sorry. I'm sorry you all had to learn about it this way. Um and yeah, I think we've written about 5. We've gone back and forth. We did one scene. We've got about 5 pages, I think. About 5 pages of stuff. 6. It says 6, but there's like weird spacing and stuff in here too. So, but yeah, so it's fun. I've been really enjoying it. Yeah, we've just been kind of doing it in our little chat thing. Oh, so they have seen where he can't help but have nosebleeds and have his brain burst from witnessing Michael. That's great. That's good fun. I really like that.
Um, yeah. And Michael is, when he sees that reaction, he gets very excited because he can't wait to see if he can make it happen again. Oh wait, no, that was a different thing. Sorry, sorry, but yeah, he's he's having a good time. Humans, and human adjacents are so much fun. And it's kind of nice because yeah, he wants both to happen again. And he'd like to laugh right in his fucking face when it happens too. I think this is the one thing I I secretly have wanted to play a bad guy for a long time and I didn't know. I was like, no, I have like a I'll be like nice people all the time. But I'm like really enjoying doing this. And especially with like all these characters, Ellie and Alan and Dean and Figment and CD, all these characters that I like, and I like playing that character and bouncing them off of those people and seeing what happens. And it's a lot of fun. Yeah, there's catharsis in the creativity of fictional evil. I agree with that. There's also just like the total horrible human in me that loves Womp, and um yeah, what can you do? Anyways, I was gonna cut this short. I don't want to waffle on like I usually do. I mean, I trust me, I'm very happy to waffle on, but I feel like people come here to listen to fanfic. They're not necessarily here to listen to me do my talk a lot about stuff. So I might let you all go. And I'll see how I'm feeling later in the evening if I feel up to it, because it was um if I feel up to it later, I might go again for something short. I'm like I want to do the rest of this story, but I don't want to do it when the people who want to hear it are not here at the same time. So we'll figure it out. Oh, thanks, Ren. I love all of you. Yay! I don't know. I'm really awkward. I don't take compliments well. But I really appreciate that you guys come here and you do this, and I hope that my humor doesn't fall flat sometimes. It's all good. Hey, man, it's I'm glad that this is a good experience for you guys. Like that's what I want it to be. I want it to be fun. So, um, and yeah, ah, ah. That's me. No, don't do that. Awk, bad. Don't do that. um, I'm genuinely very awkward. Like I will go and I'll be all like earlier where I'm like I actually think I'm really good at this thing or blah blah blah. Like I felt like such a douchebag just saying that. So yay. Um yeah, and if you guys want to see some of the stuff that Erin and I have been writing, I mean I'll leave it up to Erin to sort that out, whatever she wants to do. But like I said, we've done like one scene and we'll see where it goes. We'll see what happens. Um, there's heads up though, there is like a little moment in there that's like, oh, thank you, Ran. I'm glad that I'm so awkward. Um, uh, what was I gonna say? Oh, in case it like if anybody's interested in seeing that, I'm okay with people seeing it. But just a heads up that there is like a thing in there where Michael refers to past abuse done to himself. Uh and he at one point does reference like hurting other people. So just a heads up. It's very passing, but just so you know it's there. It's nothing, I don't think it's anything super explicit, but if that's not your thing, then you do not have to read it. Okay, so I'm going to turn this off. Whoa! Put some pants back on. Christ. And open my window and turn a fan on, and we should organize watching gargoyles at some point. My computer isn't very good for doing like a stream, but we'll figure something out. All right, you guys take care. Thank you so much for coming, and have a good night or evening or whatever it is that you guys are having. All right. Bye.